Spinks writes, "Hi guys, love the show, watch it every day. I recently watched Nightcrawler and Gone Girl back to back. This may have been a big mistake because I went away from these well-made and well-acted movies hating both of them. The outcome of the two movies had a very similar theme. If you are good at manipulating people and are without remorse or compassion, you will be a success. In Breaking Bad or Scarface, the theme was more a cautionary tale where you will succeed for a while, but ultimately you are doomed, like Walter White. So my question is, do you think that Hollywood and TV are embracing the anti-hero too much and making things too noir?"
This comes. I remember this issue came up a lot of years ago with the Clint Eastwood film $1 Million Baby. Little bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen. This is a really old movie now, so if it's a spoiler to you, tough. But it's warning, bit of a spoiler here because at the end of the film, Clint Eastwood he helps. I'm forgetting the name of the actress. Hilary Swank. Thank you. Two-time Academy Award winner Hilary Swank. He helps her commit suicide at the end. And I remember at the time there was a lot of people who got very angry at the film, saying, and I remember there were protests in front of Clint Eastwood's house, and people were saying Clint Eastwood thinks crippled people should be put to sleep and all that kind of stuff. And I think there are some times that you do not need to look for a message in a movie. Sometimes a story just tells you what happened. It's not necessarily the filmmaker telling you this is the way it should be, or this is a good thing, or this is a bad thing. It's just telling you the story and saying, in this story, this is what happens. Let you take away from that. Clint Eastwood does not believe people with physical disabilities should be put to sleep. That's just what happened in that movie, in that story, with those particular characters, and that's what happens. And then it leaves you, the audience member, to walk away and lets you wrestle through what you feel about that. That's one of the great things about the movies. The message of Gone Girl, not that there is a message at all, but the message of the Gone Girl is not that if you're an underhanded, conniving thing, you can get away with it, go for it. There is no message. That's just the story of what happened to these particular characters, and it ended that way. And it's up to you to decide whether it's a good or a bad thing, but it shouldn't influence at all your enjoyment of the movie or not, whether you approve of the message or don't approve of the message, because I guarantee you, Fincher wasn't looking to convey a message. He was just looking to tell a story, and that's what happened in the story. So anyway, that's the way I kind of see it. Schnepp, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think Clint Eastwood, the only thing wrong with him is he talks to chairs with nobody there. That's I mean, otherwise he's a great dude and great director. But speaking of Gone Girl and Nightcrawler, I mean, you're picking two movies out of like several thousand films that came out this year. And it's okay if Gone Girl, to me, Gone Girl was like about a dysfunctional relationship with two really horrible people stuck together. I mean, and they deserve each other. It's one of these horrible films, which also you're like, wow, I'm glad, that's a bad relationship. It makes you feel like any other relationship is amazing. You're like home runs compared to that one. So, same thing with Nightcrawler. You see, like, it's not saying that you have to be a despicable, horrible, ugly, manipulative person to win. It's that despicable, horrible, ugly person won in his weird game that he's playing. Ultimately, you don't know what's going to happen. It's just a story, and then it ends, and then maybe you get hit by a car at the credits. You really don't know. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is it's a story, and you can't say that, this is some kind of trend towards, dark noirs are coming back. They've never left. It's just adult storytelling. So
what it says about the viewer is that you got a good moral compass, dude. It's like, because if you're watching Nightcrawler and Gone Girl going at the end going, yeah, all right, then check yourself.
Right.
But the fact I understand for Gone Girl is a perfect example for me. I didn't love the ending as I'm watching it, but I thought it was the perfect ending for the story. But for me, I was watching it going, oh, really? Yeah. I get it. And I really,
because you want her to get hers at the end.
You really do. And when you're watching it, you're watching this whole thing. Okay, how's this? Oh, yeah, it makes sense. It really does make sense. And the same thing with Nightcrawler. It really makes sense. But I can also understand someone saying, well, no, I didn't want that to happen. Like for me, the last Paul Thomas Anderson movie, Inherent Vice.
Right.
It's one of these movies that's an open-ended movie, and there are a lot of movies that are like, even with the Master, there's a lot of movies that are just like open-ended, don't have that traditional storytelling.
They don't tie it up with a bow.
And then I don't necessarily always like those, but that's another form of storytelling. there's no right or wrong. It's whether or not you enjoy it or you don't. But I don't think it's someone going, "Oh, I'm going to make the bad guys win today." It's what John said. It's how the story, how that particular filmmaker, writers, team wanted to tell that particular story.
Let me bring up Interstellar as a good example of something where you can't really have, or it would be a very risky thing to have a really bummer ending, because originally Jonathan Nolan just came out and said, "Hey, look, my original ending didn't have the McConaughey character getting sucked into that weird piano wormhole thing and like, you know, Morse coding his daughter and having that kind of magical ending with the, at the end, he's, you know, if you haven't seen the film, you know, has a happy ending, so to speak, a message of hope." But originally the script was like really a bummer ending, and the wormhole closed and Earth's dying and he dies in space. And it's like, that's $100 million bummer ending where you're gonna, that word of mouth where people are like, "Did you see Interstellar? Yeah, it really messed me up, man. I was crying at the end. It had a bummer ending," can definitely affect the box office. That's why I always remember Lucas talking about, I made THX 1138. And after that, I decided I'm not going to make any more bummer movies for audiences, because the bigger the movie is, unless you have a really dramatic statement that you're trying to make that is a bummer ending, ultimately that 2 hours that you're sending a message to the audience, you do want to give them a message of hope. So I think it matters. Like Nightcrawler and Gone Girl, they're not giant budget movies, but they're also niche movies that are made for adults. And like, hey, you can handle this, and it's like it's not 150 plus you're you know, another 200 in advertising. It's not like that kind of a risk. So I could see why certain films went through that transformation in Interstellar and other films.
Well, Nightcrawler is not even necessarily a bummer ending.
No.
But I see, I totally understand what you're saying. But with Nightcrawler, it's fitting to what I said with Gone Girl. It's just the ending that probably should have happened to that guy.
Yeah, and actually, if anything, the ending of Gone Girl made me want to see a sequel to see her finally get hers. You know, I mean, the manipulative, evil genius girlfriend who's like just kind of dominating her guy and getting away with it. Like, Ashley, how do you do it?
It's just a talent that some of us girls have, you know? You either have it or you don't.
It's a